All right, so let's talk about radio shows. So 2 weeks ago, you guys revealed some characters that were great and super interesting. And then last week, those characters sort of assembled into groups. Most of you got to kind of choose groups. Some of those I assigned just to make sure we could move forward. So you should know by now your group assignments. And the groups vary from 3 to 5 members, I think. So that's great. And what your first task as a group is going to be is kind of a big group project, which is that you're going to create a radio production together. And we're ultimately going to all listen to those radio productions live on the, not live, like you'll record them and give them to me, but then I will play them live on the air on DS106 radio after you're done. So I want to talk a little bit about the requirements of this assignment. And I want to preface this by saying that, that the requirements are meant to help guide you. But if you feel whatever reason, like there's a requirement you can't work within, that's fine. Just contact me and let me know, and we can work together to figure that out. So I provide these requirements so that you don't feel like completely overwhelmed about where to start, but I'm also really open to being open. So I'm going to switch over to the computer so we can look at these together. So here are the requirements for your radio shows. First, all group members have to contribute to the show. That doesn't mean you all have to do the same things though. So you can take on different roles, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I do recommend going ahead and setting up at least a Slack channel or something like a Slack channel for your group where you can coordinate and collaborate together. A Google Doc is also really useful as you start to write down what it is you're going to be doing with your show. But at the very least, start with a Slack channel. And if you invite me into it, I can offer advice and feedback and answer questions as they come up. I won't jump in unless you ask me to, but I can at least be around in case stuff does come up. The total show length for your show should correspond to 5 minutes per group member. So if you have a 3-member group, you should produce at least 15 minutes. If you have a 5-member group, we don't have any 6-member groups, which is what I wrote here, but if you have a 5-member group, you would produce 25 minutes of audio. That doesn't mean, however, that each group member has to be quote unquote on the air for 5 minutes. Like I don't need to hear each of you for 5 minutes because depending on the role you play, you may not be on the air very much. So different people can be involved in planning / writing it, producing it and recording it, being the on-air talent, or editing, which is another big task involved. All of these tasks are roles that need to be played. You can divide them up equally among each of you, or different people can play to their strengths or their interests. You just need to make sure that everybody does have some responsibility and that you try to make that responsibility equal. I would like every show to include at least 3 DS106 radio bumpers. If you don't know what that is, a radio bumper, you do know what it is, you just might not know what that's called. A radio bumper is like a short soundbite that introduces the station and maybe the show that you're listening to. That's often played almost like commercials when there's natural breaks in the show. They can be, the ones you make can be specific to the show, or they can be general bumpers for DS106 radio, but that doesn't mean your show needs to have some natural breaks, so think about that. The show should incorporate the characters that you introduced to us 2 weeks ago, as well as the overall apocalyptic theme of this class. And as I mentioned in the intro video, some of you may want to try and tie in some of this emerging evidence that's been coming out over the last week or so. I would like each of you to also blog about your process and your progress, so at least one post during this coming week and one post during the week after spring break from each member of the show. And then I'd like each group member to do one promo poster or bumper sticker or logo or some kind of design work. A little like splash of design while we're working on radio that goes with your show. Please keep me appraised of your progress. You can Slack me, Twitter me, whatever. And as you're working, please consider what a fully produced show actually sounds like. Think about the shows we listened to on DS 106 Radio 2 weeks ago, where you have commercials, you have bumpers, you have a narrator or somebody who's introducing the show. You have sections that are built to complement each other. You have layering of sounds, perhaps music or background music. So what this shouldn't be is just a recording of a conversation between two people, nor should it be just a show where you play a lot of music for us. There should be a story, a narrative to this, and you should pick a format that complements that. Please remember to refer to the audio resources from last week. And in terms of format, it's really up to you. I've given some suggestions here. You could do a radio drama, an interview, or a talk show, some kind of soundscape, a game show, an investigative report. There's lots of different ways to go with this. If you're looking for inspiration, I recommend looking at the audio assignments in the assignment bank. You could kind of piece a bunch of those together for an idea for a show. Feel free to come up with your own ideas if you don't like any of these, and to be creative, and do check in with me if you're doing something that you think is really out of the ordinary. I can give you feedback. So you should begin working on that immediately as a group, and then you are going to continue to work on it this coming week up to spring break. If you want to work on it over spring break, you may, but then you'll have another week to complete it when we get back. So ultimately, it will be due by Monday, March 19th. So let me just switch back to the bunker. So that's it for the radio show. I want you to have fun with this. I know it may seem like a lot, which is why you want to really think about how you're working as a group. How can you divvy up responsibilities and make sure people are getting the materials they need on time so that each piece can continue? And as always, if you run into problems or you have questions or concerns, please, please, please reach out to me. I've taught this class a number of times where students have produced these shows, so I know some of the pitfalls, and I can give you some advice and some feedback and work with you. So that's it for the radio show. I hope you enjoy it. I will say this, a lot of students go into it not really knowing what to expect, and almost all students really end up enjoying their show production. So that's it. I will see you in the summary for this week.